Welcome to the Vigor Life Podcast, a source of inspiration, lessons, stories, skill sets, mindsets, and strategies to invigorate and expand all areas of your life. Let's go. What's going on? Coach Luka back here with the Vigor Life Podcast. And what we're going to do is take on some more Q&As because last time we ran out of time essentially, but there was a lot more questions left. Today is going to be very specific to fitness business, really, because there was a ton of questions that came in through the fitness business realm. Obviously, something that I really love talking about, and I did preface it that those questions should come from that realm a little bit more. So that's why they're there. And you know, there's certain things that I can spend a long time answering, whereas like one question can go into a legitimate presentation. So what we're gonna do is go from I'm gonna start with a couple of questions. There's a number of them. So I'm going to pick one that kind of brings those questions together. One of those questions is from Maddie Prince. And it's like, at what point should a gym owner stop coaching classes and work solely on business growth? And this is an interesting one because as always, there's certainly no like generic foundational answer. I'm just going to give you my experience and what my thought process is around it. So, you know, if we count the Vigor round in Slovenia, it's been 12 years of gym ownership. And for the first, 8 years, let's say 7 to 8, 8 years, I was always coaching. And towards the end of those 8 years, obviously, I would say, kind of cutting down on the coaching, meaning there's like obviously cutting down hours and whatnot. And there was a certain point in time where I didn't have to coach anymore, and officially on paper I didn't. And trust me, I'm going through the story because I'm going to make a point, but it's hopefully going to give an insight to my thoughts and beliefs around this stuff. And you know, I worked on a business a ton. I still do some coaching, but it wasn't official on paper. And then in the last year, I actually put myself back on the schedule. And my point here is this. I think that because for me, even so, it was like this idea and belief that like, well, I shouldn't be coaching, right? I'm a business owner. So, you know, I should always work on a business and remove myself from this, that, and the other, where I actually love coaching. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. I do it, you know, I do it for free. I used to do it for free, damn it, like, you know, over a decade ago. But I think you got to determine like what it is for you, as far as what do you truly love? You know, what position do you see yourself in? What do you truly enjoy? And it's this not just for gym business. I see this in a lot of businesses, right? It's the idea, it's the whole somebody else's dream thing, right? Well, nah, like these are the phases of business and this is how it should happen. And, you know, as soon as you can get people in and replace you and, you know, then you remove yourself. It's like, okay, cool, remove yourself and then do what? But what if this is what you love doing? And so for me, like coaching is one, I get to be in the trenches. I get to, you know, interact with clients. I get to continue to improve my craft because you can't improve your craft if you're not actually working on your craft with people. I get to be around a team and be able to help the team, and I would say help the team grow. The team helps me grow. Now, how much time you decide doing that, that's on you. You know, so for many, I would say coaches turned gym owners, it was the process of, you know, you're working 50, 60, 80, I mean, 100 hours, I mean, crazy hours, right? And then you get to a point where it's like, oh, if I can eliminate it all, I would. So I believe every person should kind of, you know, we talked about this, like writing out your perfect scenario, your perfect day. And when I say perfect day, and, you know, Craig talks about this a lot, I was like, you know, your everyday, not the perfect day, like, oh, I'm in Bali and doing this, that, and the other, but just like your perfect work day, like where you live, where you work, you know, how that would look like. And that's what you're striving for. You know, and my perfect work day, I coach, right? How much I coach, different story, you know, not 12, 14, you know, hours and stuff like that I used to many years ago, but, you know, to where I'm coaching multiple, you know, like 4 days a week, but I'm coaching a couple hours, 2-3 hours. I love that, right? And if it's more, that's cool too. But like that's my perfect day. So that, at what point should you stop coaching classes? I think, put it this way, as soon as you can, but it's also, do you want to? Right. So that's a interesting, I would say, question for every single person that's listening to this is like, what is your ideal? But not what you think should happen. There's a big difference between that. Well, I saw XYZ's gym and I look up to him and they're doing this and they're telling me that, right? It's not about that. It's about like, what do you believe? What do you feel it should be like? Now, of course, having a business that is sustainable, predictable, and can run without you is important. So there's the second part and the second point to this, okay? You should coach because you want to coach at a certain point in time, not because you have to, meaning what if you get sick for, 3 months, 6 months, something happens and you can't do it for a year, right? And you don't have coaches and you don't have staff and you don't have a team, well, then the business will die. So there's a big difference between that, as far as like, you should always build the business to a point where it doesn't need you, right? That's a true business. But then you're still doing things because you want to. Okay, so there's a big difference there. And I think that you should always work and strive towards having an excellent business, excellent team, service, having that really solid foundation to where you can remove yourself, because like I said, like, hey, I got a number of friends that had, very crazy things happen, whether it was, cancer, it was diseases, like family situations where they legitimately had to, remove themselves for the bit, where they couldn't be in the business for months, even a year. And it was able to not only survive in certain situations, also thrive, because they created that. And, if you don't have that, that becomes a problem. So you should always strive for that, right? Even if you don't, I do believe that thinking in terms of, hey, yeah, I don't want to sell my business, but I have to build it as if, what if I had to, right? And if you had to sell the business, well, then you have to have systems. You have to have systems for sales, for marketing, for like I say, structure within the business, communication, management, this, that, and the other. So building it that way, because it obviously makes the business run better anyways. But then don't remove yourself because you think you should, or you have to remove yourself. Do it because, like, if that's what you really want to do, and coach if that's what you really want to do, and coach however much you want, right? But I do think that you got to kind of really figure it out, like, what is it that you want? And sometimes, when you're in the beginning stages, you don't know this stuff. Like, that's why, for a couple of years, 2-3 years there, I wasn't even on a schedule, right? Because I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm an entrepreneur, like I'm supposed to do this, that, and the other. But at heart, I'm a coach. So it was like, nah, man, it makes sense for me. Like, this is what I want. It pulled me back in. That was a really long answer, but I do think that's important, because that question does come up a lot, as far as, what we think we should do versus, what feels natural. Another question it's a really good question is, aside from education, what is a good way to reinvest in your gym? Really, like, reinvesting in your gym, you can look at it from multiple kind of directions, but are you reinvesting it for your clients? Are you reinvesting it for your team? And really, all of it kind of comes together, right? So sure, absolutely. One is education, right? If you educate yourself, you educate your team, they're going to be better for your clients. I think a big one is experiences. Now, experiences can be everything from, like, creating new things in the gym. Like, for instance, we're putting in a cryo chamber. We have a fit bar. We have physical therapy inside. We have, right? So what are the things that you can add? Like, even adding a cool new piece of equipment, that people will love to use. That's investing in a gym. I do think a lot of people push that side a little too much, right? Where it's choosing cool equipment versus education or experiences for clients. I'd always go with the education and experiences. But certainly, like, there are times, what we used to do is, like, every month where we'd be like, oh, we have a really good month. We take some money out and buy some new cool equipment, or, we'd ask members, like, hey, what do you want? I'll be cool if we had this, that, and the other, and we'd get it, right? So I think it's good to have a rule, or have a little bit of a I would say kind of, hey, if we hit a month like this, we take this much out and we get something that people are looking to get. And, survey your members. You can do that obviously through coaching, your Facebook coaching group or email or anything like that. You'll get some feedback like what people want, and you get that. But I love the side of, the experiences. And like, there's a great book called The Power of Moments that talks about, what are the things that people remember, right? People remember, one, the peak, right? The peak of something and the end of something, right? So those are things that it's smart to make those memorable. And what I mean by that, and you could think about this as even as in a session, but if you looked at a year, it's like, hey, what's the peak of the year? It's like, oh, it was the, Friendsgiving party at Vigor, or it was like we have a 10-year anniversary coming up. So, we're putting a really big party together. I'm investing a lot in it, like a lot. But once again, why? Because you want your people to have an incredible time, to have this great memory, to celebrate together, and to be able to look back, 10 years from now, it's like, oh man, remember when we were at that party, or remember when we did this, that, or the other. So experiences are certainly one thing, but finding out, I think that getting great at reading between the lines and asking quality questions to discover what matters to people is a great idea. I think that's, and doing a lot of it. Sometimes people do it one time and then they stop, but it's a continuous thing. So what does your team want? What do your clients want? What does your tribe want? And then you can get creative in creating those things that they want, and you'd be surprised, right? So whether it's, like I said, dinners or, events where you get to give back. Obviously we do charity boot camps, and sometimes we do really big ones. And when we do community dinners, so we'll serve the homeless, we'll serve, families in need, and everybody comes together from our members to bring food. And, we have a whole checklist of who brings what, who cooks this, that, and the other. Like that's investing, and that costs us money, obviously. We got to get chairs, we got to get food. Obviously a lot of people contribute, but still it's costing. And so, but that's an investment, in your community, and everybody gets to do it with you, right? So how can you create scenarios and situations where you also give back? Which is going to lead me to actually another question that I'm going to love answering, because I'm like so fired up about this. But that matters to people. Like when you're able to do something fun, engaging, that makes people contribute and makes people feel fulfilled, that's great. But guess what? That's an investment. It's an investment of your time, and it's an investment of your energy and possibly money. Because remember, you're not always just investing money, right? It's also time, and people's time is very, very, very valuable. So think about that as like, how can you help and improve your team from a standpoint of like, yes, education, but also experiences? How can you do cool things, right? That are memorable or that connect you closer together? And then how can you do that for your clients? And then how can you do that intertwined? Like this is the stuff that like I'll have days where I just write a lot of notes and get creative with it. And like, hey, what could we do here? What could we do here? But think of it in those terms, okay? Think about white space. White space meaning, what is something that's missing that you currently don't have that would help make the experience of the team or the clients better, right? So obviously, and I'm just exposing one of the things, but I was like, oh, I'd love to have like a recovery room, right? So the recovery room is the cryo chamber, but then we have hypervolt rice guns, and now we got Normatec compression gear, and we're working on getting I would say the IVs, but then obviously FitBar has been here from the beginning since we opened the new location, and FitBar has smoothies and bowls and all types of drinks and energy drinks, right? Like, so that was white space. And also like, hey, how do we bring the person in, the physical therapist in, so that we don't have to refer out and they have to go somewhere else and we're not sure who they're going to, and so we collaborated with Dan Swinsco. That was white space. So now we're kind of creating this symbiotic environment. But it's the same, like the premise of it is, how do we, reinvest in the gym? Well, that's it. Artwork is reinvesting in the gym because it makes people feel a certain way, right? it's an environment. And remember how much I talk about environments. Environments are so massively important in behavior change. So if I can create an environment people love coming to, they get inspired by it, they get fired up by it, man, I'm going to invest in that environment too. And so that means things like artwork and paintings and, graffiti or quotes on the walls or whatever it may be, right? And I mentioned, so one of the things that I mentioned was obviously doing work for the community and doing charity work. And so that leads into the next question. And Mike asked, how do you run those scholarship programs? And what he's implying to is because we're literally about to launch it, to officially launch it. So it's something I've been working on. So I'll just share it here. Hopefully you guys get some ideas with this. And actually, this is something that down the line I'm really going to push and challenge and create some momentum around to get gym owners to start, I would say, creating their own programs. But let me take a step back and explain it. So for over 10 years, we've been doing charity boot camps every Saturday. And those boot camps, we've done tons of different charities. I mean, literally, like now, I think it's over 200. Because either every month or every week we'll do a different one, or sometimes we've been supporting the same ones that really matter to me, or our gym members, I would say. But it's been great. It's been phenomenal. We've made a lot of impact, mostly locally because that's where we've focused on, but also like bigger national, I would say, organizations and charities. We've done a ton of different ones. And at the 212 event, Adam Bornstein's event, a person that really was my mentor for those 2 different years was Jason Harris, who owns he's a Mechanism, which is one of the top creative ad agencies in America. And we're having this conversation around, I would say charity and also like marketing, how to tell that message and how to tell that communication. And so he challenged me and said, man, that's really awesome. Like what you guys have been doing is phenomenal. But what's the underlying story? Like if you could basically we got to the end of it to where it's like, well, if you could do it for one thing, like if you could just drive all this charitable work from the gym for one thing, what would it be for? And I instantly answered with like, oh, it would be for local and youth, right? And I knew that. I knew that I wanted to be local, and I knew I wanted to be youth oriented because that's what I'm passionate about from a standpoint of, one, like I know where my life shifted the most when I was younger and I was doing a lot of dumb stuff. And I was like, man, how can we create something that will help kids, in that range of 13 to 18 years old, and guide them in the right direction. And basically a mentorship program, but obviously would have a really big part would be, strength and conditioning and fitness, and also boxing, which is one of my hobbies and something I really enjoy doing. And so the kind of wheels started churning and turning, and it took a while for me to kind of just write all this stuff out and where we wanted to go with this. And now it's, pretty much almost done and put together to be launched. But the premise is that, the majority, not all of it, but the majority of our charity boot camps now will fund one thing, which is our own scholarship program. And it's called Vigor Dream. And Dream is an acronym. So, and actually let me pull it up right here. And because I got the brand new logo right now that just got done. So it means dedication, responsibility, education, attitude, and motivation. So that's what DREAM stands for. And that's the program that we're launching, where we're literally about to, weeks from now, announce it for applications. And our goal on the first one is going to be to take on anywhere from 12 to 15 young men, young women, that, and this is, like I said, the scholarship program is going to be focused more on, like I said, low income, I would say kids that can't afford it, families that can't afford it. But it's going to be a combination of mentorship, accountability, everything from goal setting. But every session is going to have, I would say, strength and conditioning, so the fitness aspect of it. Some will have boxing. There'll be curriculum, so everything from books to every session will have a specific goal, a specific drill. There'll be entrepreneurship involved in it. So everything, and like I said, I'm kind of flying through it because I could talk about this pretty deep, but imagine like everything that would have been great for me at that age, right? And like basketball massively influenced me. And my coaches there really guided me. I would say in the right direction. But I thought about like, well, through all the stuff that I've gone through, the masterminds, the mentorships, the coaching that I've been through, and it's not just me. It's also my friend Andres, who's been massively involved in tons of charities. He has, owns an orphanage in Mexico. He's doing a lot of incredible work. So he's collaborating. We're doing it together, and we're bringing other people on board now, which is super, super cool. But the whole point of it is that like we're in turn. It's kind of like if you think about it, Tom's was one of the companies that inspired me. Like many years ago, it was, oh well, you're a for-profit company. What they did was obviously, for every shoe that you buy, they give one away, right? For me, it was like the mentorship part was always going to be the route to go. But since we're doing these charity events, I was like, well, now we can fund our own scholarship program and really grow it and affect, hundreds and hopefully thousands of kids over time, as well as show how we've done it so that other small business owners and specifically other gyms can do this. So we're going to continue to do some big events for charities that we've worked with, that we love, to raise money. But our foundation is going to be this scholarship program. And, at the end of the day, you're still, it's still something that you're going to promote. Like, we're creating a landing page, we're creating an application process. We're going to go through all our, I would say, all of our network, right? We have a great network of, I would say, places that we'll be able to say, go like, hey, you should apply for this program, because there's specific people that will know which, families, kids, and so on would be great for it. But I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a lot more than the 12 applications to 15 applications that we're going for this first round through. And, we're going to run it essentially every school semester. So these scholarship programs will run almost in line with the school semesters. They'll be a little shorter than the school semesters, but we're going to continue doing them. And, what's exciting to me about this is, and here's the reason why, I donate a lot, and financially we donate a lot as a business, but it's always very different. I think the biggest impact that you can make is one of, guidance, mentorship and coaching. And for me, it was like, man, to be able to, see the person developing over the years. And once the program is over, it's not over. If you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like these kids stay in your lives. You're constantly mentoring them. This becomes, I would say, a place. It becomes a home. But it's also the phase 2 of this is that for all the kids that would be interested in, like, oh man, I would like to be in fitness and strength and conditioning. Our second phase would be that they could go through our internship program, right? Which just creates another opportunity for that mentorship and coaching and so on and so forth. So that was the idea behind it. And yeah, I am keeping it kind of short because I could really talk about this for a long time. But I really wanted to share it because I want to encourage you to do something. And like I said, get the creative juices flowing. But like, hey, what fires you up? What have you been thinking about, but you just haven't pulled the trigger because maybe, it's like, I don't know, like it's a lot of work. And hey, I'll say this to you, right? I can tell you right off the bat, one of the reasons why, I think I've shared this before, but one of the reasons why I sometimes didn't pull the trigger on this, right? Because it's a lot of responsibility. Like when you pull the trigger, when you start getting these applications, when you announce the program, now it's real. And one of the things that I won't do, is I certainly won't let these kids down. And so we want to make sure everything's on point. We want to make sure, it's running smooth and like you don't drop the ball on it. And everybody that's involved is committed. It's not like one of those, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, no, it's not. This is serious. Yeah, it's cool, but this is a serious matter, right? Like you can't not show up, or you can't like, oh, I didn't get this ready, or I didn't get that ready, or we didn't get the trip plan, or we didn't get the finances for this. Like, it's legit. And so I think that many people hold back where it's like something that they really want to do. It's like, man, I really want to help out in this community or with this organization or doing this. And they get afraid because of the responsibilities. Like, oh man, it's going to be a commitment. Absolutely, it's going to be a commitment. But when you commit, first of all, like if your goal is to make more of an impact, and I think even personally, this is something that can help you develop as a coach, as a mentor. It makes a massive difference. So this is my challenge to you, right? If anything from this show, from this podcast, that I challenge you to either, if you are doing something in that realm, to upgrade, or if you're not, is to step in that realm and like make a commitment and make a dedication. Because I do think, I can't even remember who said this quote, but it's like, the purpose of life is, I would say, is finding your gift, and the meaning of life is giving it away, right? Giving your gift away. So, I think it was that round. I could have messed it up, but it is in that realm. It's like, I believe that, you work hard to find what you're purposeful about and become the best that you can at it, right? But then it's to share it with the world. It's to give it away. And for sure, I know everybody that's in the coaching realm. I don't know, what is meaningful and fulfilling to you, to which community you want to give back to. But certainly, giving back, I believe, should be a part of it. And it'll make your life better. It'll make other people's lives better. I think it opens a lot of doors, personally and professionally, meaning like it's great for business, but it's great for your soul, right? Like, for legit, like, it's great for your soul. And if you want to do something better for your heart and soul, like, you do this, and then there's going to be other benefits from it. But that's my challenge to you. Like, how can you, get more involved and support something, like, some specific thing, and make a program around it, and like, get everybody on board, from the team to the members to the community, and really make a difference. And like, I'm looking at, the big picture, like the 10-year picture, like influencing thousands of kids, helping start more programs like this with other businesses, that, in the big scale, influences tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of kids. So that's the not very short answer to Mike's question. All right, let's go here. So couple of good ones. What do you do when you run out of ideas for content creation? I don't think that, I think there's days where you can have a moment. Actually, I came in this morning and it's like, I had a little bit of a brain fart as far as like content and doing certain things. But on the days that, content creation is pretty much this, okay? Either your own thoughts about stuff, your own insights. But a lot of times is, if you constantly keep a track record of, one, what people are asking you, if you have clients, I mean, even if you have 15 clients, right? Each one of those 15 clients might have four different things that they're like, oh man, I really would like to know more about this. Or I struggle with this, that, and the other. So that's 60 different things that you could talk about, right? And maybe some overlap for sure. And then not only do there's imagine that if there's one problem, okay? So the big problem is losing weight and keeping it off. Each one of those has a subcategory of it, right? Subcategory meaning, well, everything from your nutrition, but then there's also your, and then nutrition you can break down into smaller like issues. Then you got things like recovery and sleep and stress, right? And you could talk about that. Then there's training. Then there's environments you're in and the people you're around, right? So that one problem can break down into like 30, 40 different topics that you could talk about, shoot a video on, create a blog about, do an infographic, do an IG post, do a story, whatever it may be. I think the key, one of the keys that's really helped me out is, taking notes, meaning every time I hear an issue come up, I write it down, right? I got a journal and I also got an Evernote file that I'm always listing things that people are asking me about, hey, these questions are obviously snapshots from, Q&A, but how often can you do that? Like if you're coaching clients every day, man, you could do that every single day, just writing it out. So when there's a day when you have brain farts and you can't come up with content, you just look into your, journal, your Evernote, your notes, and you're like, oh man, like here's another, 20, 30, 40 different things that I can do. So that's one strategy. And I think kind of like the main strategy, because the questions are coming from people that you're already training and already doing stuff with, right? Versus You're just coming up with it. The second one is just I like to, there's people that I really that I follow that I love their content. I love uh, the way they communicate just speaks to me and whatnot. And it's in different realms, right? It's not just necessarily like fitness or nutrition, or it might be entrepreneurship. It might be some like really weird. Like I love art. I'm a bit of a sneakerhead, like there's all these different I would say likes and passions and things that I have. And so I might read their blogs, I might watch their videos, I might, read their email newsletters. And I save all that, meaning like if something's really good, I'm like, I save it, right? And then I'll go back to it because I save it for a certain purpose. So I have folders in my email if it's an email, right? I've obviously on IG, you can just press the save button. On blogs, you can bookmark them, and I usually put the links in Evernote. And then you can go back to that and read through it. And there's a reason I save it is because I liked what they were talking about. I liked the approach. It gets my creative juices flowing. Okay, so that's the second one. Like watching the videos, reading the stuff from people that inspire you, because it makes you go like, oh man, I'm going to write about this, but in my own way, right? Because these are my thoughts around it. I'm going to create a video around this because my own way, right? So you could call it mirroring, you could call it inspiration, you could call it whatever you want. And number 3 for me is just like always being around like for instance other coaches or just other business owners, because once again, I mean, it kind of connects to the first one, but I'm always looking at the questions that people ask, and sometimes I don't even have the answer to it, but what's cool about it is that it'll make me go find the answer. So an example, if somebody right now said, well, this person's struggling with this, that, and the other, and like just don't have an immediate answer. I'm like, it could be this, that, I think it could be this, but I'm gonna go for like an hour or hour and a half and just like pull out all the different, I got 1,000 books, I got, all these resources. I'm gonna just start pulling information and content out and then organize it in something that I can deliver, right? And so that's a perfect example. Is like questions that you know the answer to, but also questions that you don't know the answer to are perfect, because now you got to go learn and deliver them into I would say a consumable format for somebody else, right? So I think that that's plenty there, but just once again, like a lot of the content is you're answering people's questions, right? But in a way that's very, very easily done. Or should I say easily done? That's very easily consumable, right? Like we talked about the curse of knowledge. And I do want to bring this up because it matters a lot. In the fitness realm, I think this is a big problem, right? The curse of knowledge is that your subject, right? Hopefully you really know your subject to the T. So you know your subject to the T. So let's say you're a 9 out of 10 for how well you know your subject matter. And then when you talk to, I would say, your clients or your prospects, your audience, and you're talking like a 6 because you're like, oh, well, I got to dumb it down a little bit, right? And you go and talk on a 6 out of 10 on that, on that knowledge scale. But truly, like the people want to hear it on a 3 or a 2. Okay, so that's a communication thing. But this is where I think a lot of the kind of like white noise happens also when it comes to content creation, is that curse of knowledge talk. If you're a coach, are you actually talking to other coaches versus your prospects? I think that's happening a ton, right? Where it's like, oh, well, I really know this stuff. I want to show how much I know. And what you're actually doing is trying to impress other peers. And there's a place for that. Like there's a place for that, but then that needs to be your audience. Like you have to be selling to that person or trying to help that person. But most of the time you have a lot of coaches talking, on a 6, 7, or 8 to an audience that really like needs to be at be hearing it at a 2 or a 3, which means you need to clarify your communication better. I think that's very important. Once again, this is why I said, have an endless insight and take notes all the time of what people are struggling with, but people that you're coaching or people that talk to you that, are thinking about starting training or going to a gym or, working with a trainer, and then answer those questions in a infotaining way, right? So infotaining meaning people just don't want information, right? They want infotainment, which is information plus entertainment combined, right? So think about that, because once again, like there's tons of stuff out there. So being yourself, being authentic, and then being able to present things in a simple, clear way, but in an entertaining way, will definitely break through when you're doing content stuff. Rather than just being like, well, here's the info, and just being, there's tons of that. You can Google shit and it comes up. There's a reason why I would say reality TV shows and do really well, and why things like Snapchat and IG Story and so on and so forth have been successful, right? Because it's a very entertaining, like, hit you with short snippets of stuff type of format, right? And it's engaging for the brain. Okay, so this will be the last one. I'll combine these two. Let's see, we got about 10 minutes here. What are some of the ways that you develop leads for private training? There's definitely a lot of ways. And I am definitely a fan or a believer in having what I call multiple poles in the water, right? So if you're fishing, instead of just having one pole, you can only catch one fish with one pole. But with multiple poles, you can be essentially fishing in different places. So, how do we generate leads? I mean, I think that number one, this should be your focus. This is almost like a rule. I think for gym businesses, you should be generating leads through word of mouth and referrals. And if you're not, I believe you got to work on that before you start adding too much, or certainly before you start spending a whole bunch of money on paid advertising. That is for sure, because to me that's a red flag. And I used to have a number, and this is a little arbitrary because depending on how big your gym is, right? If you have, I don't know, if you have 40 clients, or if you have 150 or 200, those numbers may change. But you should shoot for getting 4 or 5 leads a month from referrals, from word of mouth, from doing things like Bring a Friend Day, which is super basic, old school, but it still works. Like doing Bring a Friend Day every month to your groups, to your semi-private, to your even, like one-on-one, and making it a semi-private session. That's worked, stood the test of time. If you do a great job, that'll work. So for instance, referrals and word of mouth, massively important. Two, like I just talked about it, but for us, events like charity boot camps. I mean, now we do it every Saturday, so it gives us a lot of frequency, because those anybody can drop in, right? You drop in, most of the time, obviously we have financial donations, $10. Sometimes it's food, clothes, this, that, the other, but you don't have to be a member. Anybody can come. And when we have the bigger events, like the one we have coming up for the 10-year anniversary, we'll probably have, I don't know, I mean, I'm definitely shooting for it to be the biggest ever. So we might have 130, 40 to 200 people in one boot camp. When we have Thanksgiving coming up, like for instance, Thanksgiving, we'll have like 80 to 100 people come in. And out of those 80 to 100 people, there's probably 20 to 30, non-members. Because members go like, hey, like come do it's the Thanksgiving, turkey throwdown at Vigor. You got to come. It's a crazy workout. You'll feel better afterwards when you devour the food. So you get a ton of new people through the doors. And, that's a great way of following up with people and saying like, hey, thanks so much for coming and, raising money or raising food, or did it, and you follow up. Because of that, we'd like to gift you a free week with personal training, with, team training, with nutrition coaching. You just have to take advantage of it by XYZ time, because we only have so many spaces, with the coaches, which is true. But once again, events are a great way. So maybe you're not doing it every week, but if you're doing it every month or every 6 to 8 weeks, and you have a schedule, which, like I said, I think a marketing calendar is very, very important. So certainly having that. From there, you have just SEO, meaning, search site optimization, which is your website, your base website. And if you're a local gym, you should certainly put some work into, if somebody writes in, Renton personal trainer, Renton gym, Renton fitness, we pop up top 4. And there's a whole bunch of strategies around that could take me, a couple hours to just talk about that. But let's say, you have to make sure, like, from the meta tags to the register stuff to, what you're showing up as. And obviously, like, the more content that you build, like Google just likes, Google likes pages, meaning if you're putting out good content, that's going to probably rank, and it's consistent. It's going to probably rank higher, and it keeps the keywords in there. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm not going to go into the geekiness of it. But hey, like, we're getting anywhere from 9, 12 leads per month just from that page, from the base. People find us, they fill out the contact form, we hit them up, so on and so forth. And honestly, like, there's a whole bunch more that we could be doing there. But that's important. Like, when people search for Google, do you pop up? And if you're one of the top 4 ones, you're you show up bigger, you show up on a map, right? So there's a bunch of that. Then there's content, right? If you produce great content and you put out the content and people are reading it, and within the content you have some type of call to action for your trial, for a strategy session, for a seminar that you're doing that they can sign up for. Once again, like, as people keep reading and keep being infotained, and they go like, wow, these guys really know what they're doing, right? So you can always be like, if you look at the local area and you're a gym or a coach or a personal trainer that's producing consistent content, that's giving value to the marketplace, constant value to the marketplace, right? Guess what? Like, that person that was thinking about training, they're going to pick you much more likely than the person that's not producing anything. Nobody sees them, so on and so forth. So content, like in a form of, for instance, blogs, still very, very, very powerful. Then there's the email list, right? If you're giving away something free, or people come to your site and they leave their email, communicating with them through email consistently on a weekly basis, preferably multiple times a week. And once again, sharing great content, sharing stories. You got to speak in stories. And then 90-10, meaning 90% of the time it's all content, all value. 10% of the time you make a pitch, you make an offer. Hey, sign up for our 30-day results in advance program. Sign up for us, 8-week transformation challenge from that, right? Whatever it may be. So you can see now multiple polls, right? Word of mouth, referrals, events, SEO, main website, content through blogs, email marketing. And of course, I mean, I see, and once again, I'm not saying there's not more. There's local JV partnerships, like we have with chiropractors, with physical therapists, with supplement places, with massage places, with even, the chamber. Then of course, social media, right? And honestly, I mean, the platforms that we really, Instagram killing right now, as far as probably being the most valuable one. Of course, still Facebook, and then there's the organic side of that part, and then there's also the paid part side of that, right? And having funnels and front end offers and low barrier offers, doing live seminars and workshops, which not enough people do, is a great way to get people in, deliver value, and then get them in for strategy sessions. So I think I probably named 7 or 8 here, and each one kind of has the life of its own that I could certainly talk about. And that's part of what I coach and teach in my business coaching program, my mentorship program. But, those are the different poles in the water. And there's also a lot of things. There's a lot of ways to get creative and do things. And when you do it like that, for instance, if you have, 6, 7 different things that are like, even if you got 1 lead per month from 7 different things, that's 7 leads, right? If you can have, give them value and convert them into a client, then I don't know, if you're 4 out of 7, and that's in 12 months, that's 48 new clients. And if you only lost 20, you're 28 net. So obviously this is like business talk, but this is certainly my realm, and that's something to consider. And really, what, like, with a lot of, I would say, my coaching clients, we kind of look at those polls and like, hey, what's happening here? How many leads are you getting here? Oh, 0. Or maybe I don't even know. And to be honest with you, like KPI, most people, that's a key performance indicator. Most people don't know. Most people don't know, where they're generating their leads from. And maybe there's somewhere that you're actually getting a lot of leads from and you don't even know. And I always go like, hey, if something's doing well for you, double down on it, right? If the site's doing well, okay, cool. How can we double down on the leads? How can we improve the main page so that it's even clearer with a call to action, with this, that, and the other? So instead of getting 6 people, now you get 12 per month, right? Hey, Instagram's doing great. Cool. What are you doing? Let's dig into that. Let's triple down on that. Let's get that up, right? Most people don't even know. There's no awareness around what's working, what's not working. And sometimes it's scary. Maybe there's no awareness because like, shit, I don't want to look at it because all of it's not working well. So with that said, like look at the different areas. And this is for any business, for any small business, for any business period, right? You want to look in like what is working, what's not working. And then, hey, bump up your strengths as much as you can. Fix your weaknesses so they're not pulling you down, but, bump up your strengths and like really work on those. And, with that, and like I said, this is not usually certain things you can do get fast results for sure. Certain things, overall, it takes time, right? We're in a place now. One of the things I didn't mention was, now we have a bunch of, I would say, walk-in traffic because we have Fit Bar. We're in a location that's got a good amount of people walking by and driving by. But I started in a garage where there's none of that. We didn't even have signage, no windows, you didn't even know it was a gym, right? So, that was built over time, and you adjust to your scenario, but that's the whole point. But definitely having multiple poles in water, and no matter whether it's group training, one-on-one training, semi-private personal training, and also just understanding your audience, meaning, who you're speaking to, who you're speaking with, massively important. So, we got to wrap it up. More for time, we actually have, I would say, more questions. But we're gonna do a lot more of these Q&As. Actually, I'll post more often to shoot in the questions, and that way we can do these because I love doing these. I love doing this because it kind of takes you down a slippery slope. Actually, matter of fact, if you have any questions, shoot them over to me on my Instagram at Luka Hocevar. DM them to me on Facebook as well, under whether it's Vigor Ground Fitness Performance, whether it's Luka Hocevar. So that way I can keep stacking them. Because remember what I said about content, right? Questions come in, always record the questions so you have content to create, never-ending content to create. With that said, guys, always appreciate it. Always love it when you guys leave a review. Give them that 5-star review and also sharing it because, once again, podcast is growing and I love it. And it's the only way to help more people is to share it more. I will talk to you in the next episode. Coach Luka's out. Peace.